Quick question before we even start. Do you know exactly how many years it would take your current savings to double at the rate you're earning right now? Most people have absolutely no idea, and that's honestly wild because there's a single simple formula that answers that question in about 3 seconds. No calculator, no finance degree, nothing complicated. It's called the Rule of 72, and once you understand it, you'll never look at an interest rate the same way again. Let's get into it. Here's the entire rule in one sentence. Take the number 72, divide it by your annual interest rate, and the answer tells you roughly how many years it'll take your money to double. That's genuinely the whole thing. If you're earning 7% a year, 72 divided by 7 is a little over 10, so your money doubles in about 10 years. Earning a flat 2% in a regular savings account, 72 divided by 2 is 36 years. Same dollar amount, same starting point, completely different outcome just based on the rate. What makes this formula so useful compared to actually doing the full compound interest math is speed. You don't need a calculator, an app, or a spreadsheet. You can do this in your head, in the time it takes to have a conversation, which means you can actually use it in the moment, comparing 2 accounts a bank is offering you, or checking whether a financial claim someone's making actually holds up mathematically. So here's a real question for you, and I actually want you to think about this one, not just keep scrolling past it. What's the actual interest rate on the account where most of your money is sitting right now? If you don't know that number off the top of your head, that alone tells you something important, because it means you genuinely don't know how long your own money is going to take to double. Let's talk about why this formula actually works, because understanding the why makes it stick a lot better than just memorizing the number 72. This comes from something called compound interest, the idea that you don't just earn returns on your original amount, you earn returns on your returns too, and that snowballs over time. The number 72 isn't some random magic number, it's a mathematical approximation that comes out of the actual compound interest formula, simplified down into something you can do in your head instead of needing a calculator every single time. Mathematicians picked 72 specifically because it divides evenly by so many common numbers, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 9, 12, which makes the mental math actually clean and usable in real time, rather than leaving you with an awkward decimal every time you try to use it. Here's where it gets genuinely useful, beyond just doubling time. You can flip the formula around. Instead of dividing 72 by your rate to find the years, you can divide 72 by the number of years you have until a goal and find out what interest rate you'd actually need. Say you want your money to double in exactly 6 years. 72 divided by 6 is 12, so you'd need roughly a 12% annual return to hit that. That's a genuinely useful, fast way to sanity check whether a financial goal is realistic or whether it's going to require some seriously aggressive returns to actually happen. Now, let me ask you something else, and be honest with yourself here. Have you ever set a financial goal like, I want to double my savings in 5 years, without actually checking whether the numbers behind that goal made any sense? Be honest. Almost everyone has done this at some point, and the rule of 72 is exactly the tool that would have caught it in about 10 seconds. Let's walk through a few real examples so this actually feels concrete instead of just abstract math. Say you've got $10,000 sitting in a regular savings account earning 1%. 72 divided by 1 is 72 years for that money to double. 72 years. That's genuinely longer than most people's entire working life. Now take that same $10,000 and put it into something averaging 7% a year, which is roughly in line with long-term stock market averages. 72 divided by 7 is about 10 years. Same starting amount, same person, same effort. The only thing that changed is the rate, and the difference is over 60 years. This is exactly why the specific place you put your money matters so much more than people realize. It's not about how hard you work to save. It's about what that saved money is actually doing once it's sitting somewhere. Let's use this the other way around now. Because the rule of 72 doesn't just apply to your own money, it applies to debt too. And this is the part that tends to genuinely shock people. If you're carrying a balance on a credit card at 24% interest, 72 divided by 24 is 3. 3 years. That's how long it takes that debt to double if you're not actively paying it down faster than the interest is accumulating. Sit with that for a second. A credit card balance can genuinely double in 3 years, doing absolutely nothing except sitting there. Think about what that actually means in real terms. A $2,000 balance, left untouched at a typical high credit card rate, becomes $4,000 in 3 years and $8,000 in 6 years, all without a single new purchase being made. The debt itself is compounding against you in exactly the same mathematical way your investments compound for you, just running in the opposite, much more painful direction. So here's a slightly uncomfortable question, but I think it's worth asking directly. Do you currently know the interest rate on any debt you're carrying? Not roughly, the actual number. Because if you don't, pause the video right now, go check, and come back. I promise the video will still be here in 2 minutes. Let's talk about where this formula gets slightly less accurate, because it's genuinely important to know its limits. The rule of 72 is an approximation, not an exact formula. It works best for interest rates somewhere between about 6 and 10%. Below that range, or significantly above it, the actual doubling time drifts a bit from what the simple formula predicts, and the math gets slightly more complicated to calculate exactly. For most everyday purposes, comparing a savings account to an investment account, or estimating how debt grows, it's close enough to be genuinely useful. You wouldn't use it for a precise financial projection you're presenting to a bank, but for quickly sizing up a decision in your head, it holds up remarkably well. For anyone who wants a slightly more precise version at very high or very low rates, there are adjusted versions floating around, sometimes called the Rule of 69 or Rule of 70, which tend to be a touch more accurate outside that 6 to 10% range. But honestly, for the vast majority of everyday situations you'll actually run into, a savings account, a typical investment average, a credit card rate, 72 is close enough that memorizing a second, more complicated version usually isn't worth the extra effort. Let's bring this into your actual life now, because understanding the formula only matters if you actually use it. Think about every single account you currently have money sitting in: checking, savings, retirement, investments, whatever it is. For each one, do you actually know the rate? And more importantly, once you know the rate, do you know roughly how many years it'll take that specific pile of money to double? Here's a challenge for you. Genuinely, right now, pick just one account, the one you think about the least, and calculate its doubling time using this formula before you even finish watching this video. I guarantee the number will surprise you, one way or the other. Let's talk about the single biggest mistake people make once they actually learn this formula. It's assuming that because a bigger number is technically better, moving your money somewhere with a slightly higher rate is automatically the right move, without considering the actual risk attached to that higher rate. A savings account paying 1% is extremely safe. An investment averaging 7% carries real, genuine short-term risk. It can go down significantly in any given year, even though it tends to average out to that number over long periods. The Rule of 72 tells you about speed. It doesn't tell you about safety. Both matter, and confusing the two is exactly how people end up taking on more risk than they actually meant to, chasing a faster doubling time without fully understanding what they were trading away to get it. This is exactly why the smartest use of this formula isn't chasing the single highest rate you can find. It's using it to make an informed, honest comparison between your options, with a clear understanding of what risk each option is actually asking you to accept in exchange for that faster doubling time. Let's talk about one more use for this formula that almost nobody brings up, and it's honestly one of my favorites: using it to understand inflation instead of just interest rates. If inflation is running at around 4% a year, 72 divided by 4 is 18. That means the actual purchasing power of your money is cut in half roughly every 18 years, just sitting there doing nothing. This is exactly why leaving a large amount of cash sitting in a low-interest account for decades isn't actually safe in the way it feels. It's quietly losing real value the entire time, even though the number on the screen never goes down. So here's one final question before we wrap this up, and I really want you to sit with this one. If your money isn't earning at least enough to outpace inflation, is it actually growing at all, or is it just quietly shrinking while the number on your screen stays the same, or even goes up a little? That's not a rhetorical question. Think about your own accounts specifically while you answer it. Let's recap everything we covered today. The Rule of 72 is a simple formula. Divide 72 by your interest rate to find out roughly how many years it takes your money to double. It works both ways. You can find your doubling time or figure out what rate you'd need to hit a specific goal. It applies to debt just as much as savings, and debt at a high interest rate can double shockingly fast if you're not paying attention. It has real limits, working best for rates between roughly 6 and 10%. And it's just as useful for understanding how inflation erodes your money as it is for understanding how investments grow it. Remember this, the actual number 72 isn't the important part. The habit of asking, how long will this take to double, and is that fast enough for what I actually need, is the part that changes how you look at every single financial decision from here forward. Whether it's a bank offering you a new account, a friend telling you about an investment, or your own credit card statement sitting in your inbox, this one small mental habit turns a vague, confusing number into something concrete and genuinely useful in about 3 seconds flat. If this video actually made this formula click for you, hit that like button and subscribe, because we cover practical, no-fluff money concepts exactly like this every single week. Drop a comment and tell me the actual number using your own real accounts. What's your current doubling time, and did it surprise you? In the next video, we're covering a few more mental math shortcuts just like this one that make real financial decisions dramatically easier to think through on the spot. So make sure you hit that bell icon so you don't miss it. See you in the next one.